Okay, I would love to talk about the substance right now. This has been something that I was going to talk about on my second channel and do a little video sitting on my sofa, which is right over here whenever I film YouTube videos. Oh, look at chat being so sweet. So I'm currently streaming on Twitch again. I randomly decided to do it. I just missed having it. This is so fun being able to read everything, and it feels more personal, and I just really enjoy it. So my Twitch username is the Adam McIntyre. But anyways, I want to talk about The Substance. So if you do not know, The Substance is a movie that came out this year. Yeah, this year. And it's been so like overhyped. And normally when a movie is like incredibly overhyped, I don't want to watch it. I don't know why. I'm like really I really annoy myself with that. Whereas if someone really likes an artist, I persuade myself that like I don't want to listen to the artist. Or if a movie is really hyped, I'm like, ugh, I'll get around to it eventually. Like, I'm even feeling it with Wicked right now. Like, you know, Wicked, I have been waiting all year for it to come out, and now Wicked's out, and I'm like, well, everyone's talking about Wicked, so I guess I'll go to it in the future. I'm like, are you? I'm so annoyed at myself. But with The Substance, I wanted to go see it whenever it was in theaters, but I was really scared because people were saying that it was like incredibly gory, incredibly horror. And I didn't want to go to a movie theater on my own, see it, and then be so scared that I have to walk out because I would feel so embarrassed. Not that if you've done that, it is embarrassing, but like maybe I'll judge a little bit. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go whenever it's in theaters. And I kept telling myself, like, I'll build up the courage to go on my own. I wanted to go with friends. And eventually, whenever I was like, oh, I really want to go see The Substance, it was whenever Wicked hype was like building. So I was like, perfect. Now I can go on the thing that's like the hype is dying out of. So I decided to go and watch it, and it was out of theaters. So I ended up buying the movie, and I watched it. And whenever I watch movies, normally I'll be like scrolling my phone, you know, the same time. Like, I need a distraction. I need a distraction. And this was the first movie in a long time that I was absolutely glued to the screen. And I have so many thoughts, and it's been maybe a week or two a week or two since I've watched it, and I cannot stop thinking about it, that I need to just tell you my thoughts. If you've watched the movie, please let me know in chat right now, for those who are watching right here. And if you have watched it, please let me know down below. And I need to know, like, in detail as well, your thoughts. So I guess the story of The Substance is, and it's been out for a while that I don't care about doing spoilers, but I think it's already all over the internet. So it is a gory film, and it is very camp. And I think a lot of people that are giving it criticism aren't understanding camp when it comes to like horror and gory stuff. But the movie is basically about this woman who is like an instructor on TV, and she's like a middle-aged woman, I guess, played by Demi Moore, isn't it? Demi Moore, someone fact check me, I think. And the opening scene is basically like her doing her show, and it's like a workout show. And then ultimately she overhears the manager being like, she's too old, she needs to be fired, we need someone young, like, we want a young image, and the old image is ruining it for us. So it is Demi Moore. And she overhears this conversation, and obviously she is now being told that she's going to be fired because she's too old. So then it cuts to a meeting with her and the manager, and he's basically saying they want someone young, they want someone fresh, they want someone new. And there's a bunch of scenes of, you know, the main character then dealing with this pressure of ageism and how she looks and how she feels about how she looks, and just the process of younger being more valued, right? And she now knows that her job is going to be replaced by a younger person. And so, to cut a long story short, she went to the hospital because she got hit by a car. I told you there was going to be spoilers. She got hit by a car. Ultimately, she was fine. Nothing really bad happened to her. But during the surgery, one of the doctors does like an extra check on her. And in that, ultimately, he is someone that is a big part of the story because he has also taken the substance, which we'll get to. And so he slips in her coat a little memory pen with a number on the back of it. And ultimately she puts it, or she actually throws it away at the start. And then again, she is reminded of this like ever ageist world. And there's a lot of things that happen that at nighttime, she's having a really bad night. She puts it on the TV and she watches it. And it's basically like, have you ever dreamt of a younger, better version of yourself? Like a more beautiful, more younger version of yourself. And ultimately she calls the number where she has to pick her box up in this really dodgy looking place. And she has to use this code and climb under. It's really crazy. And she ends up bringing the box home. She opens it up and it is the substance. Now there is like an injection that she needs to do. And at the start of the movie, one of the opening scenes is an egg being injected and then a second yolk pops out and it's a more vibrant one. Therefore, the story is like, once you do this injection, a younger, more vibrant version of yourself comes out. And so you have to feed when you take the substance and you become the younger person. Like, so the person comes out of her body, right? And basically you have to feed your other body, which is lying there lifeless while you're living in the other body. So your conscience is in the other body while your other body is still there, but you have to feed it, right? And you have to switch every 7 days. And now this is really, really, really important. You have to switch every 7 days. And ultimately, she switches and it's the younger version of herself, played by an incredible actress. And she goes for the interview for the job that Elizabeth, the main character, who I'm pretty sure she's called, is being fired from because she's too old. And she ends up getting the job because she's this young, beautiful woman, which was exactly what they wanted. And basically, over the course of the movie, it is this battle between when the younger person would get all the opportunities, is loved, is treated great by men, is treated great by the executives, is getting all these work things, everything, billboards. And then when she would switch into her older self, she would be reminded that she is now a lot older and she is not that younger person and she'd be treated bad again. And ultimately, when she switches back into the younger self every 7 days, the younger self starts getting, which is her, it's still her conscience, is getting all these amazing opportunities and is so loved by men and, all these different things that she ends up staying too long in the body multiple times. The longer that she overstays in the body past the 7 days, the more long-term permanent effects and damages happen to the Elizabeth. So the younger version of her is named Sue, which is Eliza Sue, I think is what they're both called together. And so the more that Sue overstays the 7 days, the more that Elizabeth's body gets fucked up. Now, the first thing is that her finger turns really old and like really disgusting looking. And over the course of the movie, the younger version keeps abusing the 7 days until she's way off and the main body is like shriveling up. And again, to cut a long story short, by the end of the movie, the older body, once they've finally switched back again after, all this time of abusing the time period and stuff, has turned into a monster, and looks very scary and not recognizable at all. Like body parts growing out. There's a face here. There's a face there. Terrifying, right? And you can't switch back. You cannot switch back. But there's a lot of thinking I've been doing about the movie. And if you've watched the movie, you'll understand. Sorry, I just had to do a little bit of an intro to it. Now, it's an incredibly graphic movie, which normally I don't handle well, but I was so enthralled by the story that I was willing to look past it. And also, a lot of the horror is very camp, specifically one of the ending scenes. Now, the movie I've been thinking about it a lot, like a lot. I'm putting this fan on because it's quite hot in here. I've been thinking about it a lot because it ultimately tells a story of how ageist the world is and also how the main people, if the only really, that really feel this societal pressure when it comes to aging is women. Because in the opening of the movie, when the older character is being treated so horribly, she's being treated horribly by men who are significantly older than her. Significantly older than her. And it really paints this picture that while these older men executives are getting more and more successful, the older that Elizabeth, that is her name, right? The main character is called Elizabeth, right? Because then Sue is the younger one. The more she is treated horribly and losing every job and losing everything and is old and shriveled up, yeah, it is. These men that are way older are getting all the opportunities. So it is showing this very ageist world that really only women face. And Elizabeth Sparkle. And one of the opening scenes of the movie is Elizabeth Sparkle's Hollywood Walk of Fame star, it being opened, everyone taking photos with it, everyone being really excited, and then shows a gradual of people, dropping food on it, people walking over it, people not caring about it. And one of the ending scenes, the ending scene, references back to that, which we'll talk about in a second. But the movie also shows something that I've been thinking about a lot deeper, which is this self-image of it all. Because in the middle-ish of the movie, Elizabeth starts to truly resent Sue for getting all the opportunities. And it's this internal battle that the more that Sue lives her life, the more Elizabeth resents Sue, who is herself. Therefore, it's this form of like self-harm. It kind of came across to me. And it was just the more that Elizabeth would become Sue, the more when she would go back to Elizabeth, she would hate her appearance more. And I think the juxtapose of Elizabeth living in her house as both Elizabeth and Sue through 7 days in, 7 days off, and having these different experiences was really crazy. Sue having all these men and, working out every day and waking up so happy. And then Elizabeth, waking up and feeling so depressed, being so obsessed with self-image because society is making her do that. Was just this crazy juxtapose. And also, there's many scenes where Sue, the younger version, when she would be in her younger body, would be getting rid of all of Elizabeth's stuff and all of the photos of her. And she started to resent and she started to, come at her for calling her old and calling her whatever. So this one conscience is then being so critical of herself from this thing that was supposed to just give herself a better version of herself. So it just paints this really interesting picture of how people, specifically women, but everyone, with self-image, look at each other. But one thing that really has stuck with me is at the end of the movie, it's Sue who gets a New Year's Eve gig through the dance workout class that she's been doing. So she's going to do New Year's Eve and a huge show. But to do it, she has to do a lot of rehearsals, and the 7 days in, 7 days off doesn't work with the New Year schedule. So she abuses the 7 days in, 7 days off, and Elizabeth's body is basically just left to rot. And while Sue is, topping herself up with, nutrients or whatever from Elizabeth's body, she's therefore damaging Elizabeth's body in the long term, which is when she turns into the big monster looking. So right before the New Year's show, on the final rehearsal or something like that, Sue she looks in the mirror, and because she has overstayed the body, it says switch every 7 days, no exception, her teeth start to fall out. And her nose starts really bleeding, and her mouth starts really bleeding. And that's where that meme scene comes when the executives are like, Sue, and they're like, can you give us a smile? And she goes like this. Because she always smiles with her teeth. But her teeth are falling out because both bodies are now rotting. So she rushes home and switches, but by that time, the damage had been done, and that's when she turns into this ultimate self of, there's a face. She tries to use the activator, which you're only supposed to use once, twice, and this then therefore activates her conscious now in a body that holds both these people's bodies, but is this big monster looking, right? It's very, very, very camp, but It's very, very, very gory and very, very, very sad. So Elizabeth, we're just going to call her Elizabeth now, but it's Elizabeth Ann Sue, Eliza Sue, is now this big monster. And it's New Year's Eve, and she has to do the New Year's Eve gig. So what she does is she shows up to the New Year's Eve gig, and she's wearing a face mask of Elizabeth. So people loved it when she showed up at the studio, even though she looked like a monster, because they thought that she was making fun of Elizabeth because she was wearing the face mask and she was going to reveal it, and she's the younger, prettier version, very tongue-in-cheek. But before I get to that, one of the scenes that absolutely, I don't know why, but I could actually cry thinking about it right now. There's a scene in the movie that has absolutely stuck with me, and it is before she goes to the New Year's Eve thing, when she has become the final form. I wonder if I can look up the final form just to kind of show you like what we're talking about. If people have watched the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about with the scene. Let me try find the final form. Should I just type in final form? Okay, so like, trying to find any photo here. Here we go. Oh wait. Sorry, I'm just trying to open this photo. My computer's being weird. Huh? I just want to talk about this. Okay, I'm gonna do this. This is what the final form looks like, right? Sorry, that took me longer than expected. So this is the final form. And Elizabeth's face is the front-facing one. Or sorry, Sue's face is the front-facing one. And Elizabeth's is at the back. Like, there's another face at the back, right? Now, one of the scenes that absolutely broke me is before she goes to, like, the New Year's Eve and stuff like this, Elizabeth looks like this. And if anyone's watched the movie, you might know what I'm talking about. She looks in the mirror and she starts putting her earrings on. And it's this really sweet but incredibly sad scene where this monster is basically having to stick earrings on, you know, because like she no longer has all of, so like she is just like flesh basically, and she's putting these earrings on and she's like going like this and she's like looking in the mirror, and it is an incredibly bittersweet scene. And my take on it is this like realization of accepting what you look like, but her accepting what she looks like is now this monster that has been created because of the internal pressure that women face because of society's ageism. And she's like putting on this outfit. This is right before she leaves for New Year's, and she's making herself, you know, feel really pretty, and you've got it. And that was when she felt pretty, was when it was, she could not change how she looked anymore. When she looked like this, that was her final form. She couldn't do anything. And she looks in the mirror, she puts her earrings on, she puts her dress on, and it's like this really sweet moment. And it's like, as a viewer, I took it as she felt pretty. And so, and then this makes sense with her going to the New Year's. So she goes to the New Year's where she's supposed to do the show. She shows up with the face mask. People love it because it obviously is this like making fun of Elizabeth. You know, you're now the younger one. She goes out on stage, and obviously the crowd are very confused because they're expecting Sue. And hi, Moon Mystic. So she comes out on stage, and the crowd are a little bit confused, but they love that the face mask's on. They find it funny, right? And then the face mask falls off, and the light shines, and obviously what I just showed you is there, and the crowd are horrified, and people are shouting like monster, demon, like all these different things, right? And one of the most heartbreaking moments is they start attacking her, and they like start like trying to like literally just kill her. Like kill her. And she's like pleading like, it's still me. It's just me. It's still me. And it was this finale scene. And it's so fucking heartbreaking. And you know, it makes me sad because I told my mom and dad to watch the movie. And they messaged me and were like, oh, we didn't get past the first 30 minutes. They were like, we didn't think it was, like, we thought that it was just kind of like a show-off movie. Because very much so the opening is just about the younger one being pretty. And I'm like, no, that's the point. Like, you have to wait it until the end for it to just hit you. And so the ending scene really just, when they're trying to kill her and she looks like that final form and she's like pleading like, it's still me, it's just me. And she has accepted that she feels pretty in that moment. Or if she doesn't even feel pretty, she feels like herself for the first time. And it says a lot, you know, about society in general. And the final scene is very like, people have a different take on it. A lot of people like how they ended it. A lot of people don't like, because the ending is very gory camp. Like OG camp in horror films. That's how it's like, right? When she's rejected is when she finally accepts herself. And so a lot of people don't like the ending. I like the ending, but it's gory camp. So ultimately, she ends up being like totally, you know, done apart, ripped apart, all the rest, physically. And it ends up being that Elizabeth, remember there's the Elizabeth and Sue face? Elizabeth's face ends up detaching, bear with me, ends up detaching from the body. And the final scene is Elizabeth's face literally on its own, like crawling, and you don't know where it's going. And then it's this overshot, and it's the same shot as the start of the movie with Elizabeth Sparkle's Hollywood Walk of Fame star. It's that same shot, except Elizabeth's face is now like trying its best to make its way to the star. And when it lands on the star, it just stays there. And she looks up and she's like hallucinating, and it cuts to like her perspective, and it's just like sparkles coming down. And there's like a little flashback to her career, and it slowly zooms in on her face, you know, smiling and nearly like crying with joy and happiness. And then the ending of the movie is that, you know, her face just melts into the star. And, you know, and then she's gone. That ending killed me. And a lot of people don't like the ending. And I just think that it is so emotional, because the movie starts with, you know, her being at like the career being at its peak, and then it shows the ageism and how that affects some personal image and stuff. And then the ending is back at that same spot through all of this, and she's like finally happy after going through all of that. But then ultimately she's dead. And when she finally, you know, accepts herself at the end of the movie is when it's too late. Like, she has been ruined because of the society pressure to stay in the younger body. Now, it's such a gory movie, but It really is worth a watch. And if people have watched it and they get it, I love having conversations with those people. I've had like an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long conversations on FaceTime with like my friends who've watched this movie where I'm just like, I can't stop thinking about it. I truly think it's movie of the year. I really, Demi Moore's performance in this is insane. Insane. The opening scene where it shows how time passes by from the star getting dirty and cracked, stepped on, and at the end is so good. So I would absolutely love, first of all, thank you for letting me yap about the movie, but I just think it's so topical and important. And if you haven't watched the movie, consider watching it and coming back. Even if you know the spoilers, the impact will still hit. And please let me know your thoughts. And if you have watched it, please, even in detail, I will read every single one. I need to know. That scene of her getting ready, and the earrings, and her finally feeling pretty. It's just incredibly moving. So I'll leave that there. Thank you for letting me yap about the substance, but I can't stop thinking about it after watching it. It really is crazy.